what's one piece of life advice that you have? And I say, read 5 pages from a great book every day, and you'll be like in the top 2% smartest people in the world in 10 years or whatever. And maybe I'm like putting too much pressure on too, because I'll be like, so you guys, let me tell you why reading is like one of the most important things you can do and why I value it so much. Can we sit with that discomfort, knowing that our kids are they're not making choices that are in alignment with what we know is best for them.
Right.
So that they can have that powerful, transformative moment. What if I told you that a story could teach your child more history, science, math, and literature than a year of textbooks? Welcome to the Story Schooling Podcast. I'm Angel Selden, author of Curiouser.
And I'm Sandy Fouts, co-founder of Wonder Well Learning.
I feel like I have done a really good job in the past curating and making my kids love books and reading. But as they've gotten older, they are so resistant to reading anything I ask them to read. And even if I invite them to find their own things to read, they don't do it. I don't understand what the barrier is. And this summer, we used to have this thing called Wilde University that we would create this curriculum over the summer because that was like our consolation prize for not doing homeschool. We were like, okay, we're still going to do summer Wilde University. And
Yeah.
because I wanted to feel part of their learning, but it just, there has become a lot of resistance for some reason. And my husband and I were like, okay, we're just going to choose 3 books to read over the summer. Just 3 books, because we want to have this shared experience. We know it's not going to be the perfect book for every single person in the family, but we were very thoughtful at choosing 3 books that could span, high school to elementary school and have lots to talk about. And like we listened to a couple of them in the car while we drove on family trips, but the kids would just not sit and read them. It's just, I believe very much in not like cramming things down people's throats, but I'm like, why? So anyway, just advice for me.
No, first of all, I think boys have more of a need to do things, like move, create, build, or learn a skill versus just reading from a book, because I have had the same experience with my boys versus my girls. And I've read that that's a gender tendency.
But it's good to be reminded.
I have some other thoughts too.
Yes, please.
Yeah, that was just my first thought. But Sandy, did you want to share your thoughts next?
I have a couple. I've seen my kids. Well, my first question was, when you say they get older, are you talking young adults or are you talking teenagers?
Well, my youngest is 10. My oldest is 26. And so I wasn't even inviting my adult children.
So you're talking those who are still in the home.
So like 10 to 17. That's what I was trying to accommodate. We chose some really cool books in my mind.
Yeah.
I have a couple of thoughts. One, if you really want a shared experience, you allow them to choose the book. And you can pull so much out of a book.
She did
And
say
so
that. She tried that.
They tried, but they would not
Okay.
commit. They would not.
They had no interest.
Yeah.
Another thought that I had is that I have found magic in evening reading. Like, it's just a habit of what we do. But it gets very difficult when they get older, right? So once my kids hit about like 16, 17, like I've read to my kids through the teen years at night, had a lot of amazing shared experiences through that. But
So
as they
you
get
mean
older,
read
it's
aloud?
hard. Reading aloud,
We
yes.
have done that.
So reading together.
Yes.
But that's not always a perfect solution either.
Right.
That's not always easy.
And we have
especially as they have different things.
had more success with the read alouds with our 2 younger ones, but and so maybe I just need to like focus on, okay, let's listen to it in the car on a trip. Let's do read alouds in the evening. Like, apparently it's not working to have multiple copies of this book in our house and just expect everyone to go read it.
There can be like a shared adventure with it. Like if you compare something with it. So I don't know what the books were that you chose, but if there's something that comes that's related to that story, that's real, that you can go do together as a family, that's another way. I mean,
like go climb a mountain after you read Into Thin Air, or
like what is somehow to tie it together so everybody's looking forward to this shared experience at the same time. as they share the story together and then the shared experience together. So that's another way. But also, I've just learned like my kids have ebbed and flowed in and out of reading. And the thing that has brought them to be a reader more than anything is watching me read, which is really hard because I often, like when I'm reading, when they see me read, I'm reading to them. They don't see me read personally, like just reading myself. They don't see that because I do it in times when they're not around. And so I've made a goal this year. I'm on my last kid. and this year I'm kind of in the same place you are. I have some that have launched and then my youngest is 10. And
almost
so
the
really
exact same age span, because your oldest is 25.
25 to 10. Yeah, 6 from 25 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've really tried to model more reading and then just tell her about it. Like, just share what I'm reading, whether they're reading it or not, but just like be excited about something and, look, this is this cool thing that I learned, or I'll just tell them the story.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. I think it may have been Jane Eyre that I was reading at one point in time. And after I read it, I'd go in and I'd tell my daughter, I'd catch her up on the storyline. So I'd retell it to her, just the summary of what I had read. But sometimes we can't, like you said, you can't force it. You can't force that shared experience, or it really doesn't become an experience, it becomes something. I've forced some things before and my kids are still teasing me about some of my poor parenting. Remember when mom made us do this thing? That was ridiculous.
Yes.
And I look back at it and I was like, that was a little ridiculous. I think about it now. I thought it was really cool at the time, but it was pretty ridiculous. So yeah. And maybe it's something you can share. Maybe it is the age span, like you share a book with the older ones and you share a different one with the younger ones, and just trying something different till something lands. But also, I definitely don't think you're alone in what you're experiencing. I've seen my kids ebb and flow, and I think, oh, they're going to be a reader, and then I'm like, they're not going to be a reader, and then wait, maybe they're back into it. Come and go, even in their young adulthood. I see that sometimes peek back in and come and go.
My oldest son recently, a few months ago, invited me to read a book with him, and I didn't finish it yet. So I need to go finish reading it.
Yeah.
There's your shared experience.
So I have another quick story for you that might be inspiring. So I have shared with you that I've also struggled with. And maybe I'm like putting too much pressure on too, because I'll be like, so you guys, let me tell you why reading is like one of the most important things you can do and why I value it so much. And I tell everybody, it started when some missionaries started asking, what's one piece of life advice that you have? And I say, read 5 pages from a great book every day and you'll be like in the top 2% smartest people in the world in 10 years or whatever. It's just simple, practical advice. And I'm like, how much time does that take? 15 minutes, maybe, if it's like a long, or if there's a lot of words on each page, this is so easy. And I'm trying to inspire my boys, to read. My youngest, who's 9, can listen to me read to him for hours, but has no interest in reading books on his own. So, and he's still young and that's understandable. I'm fine. But, he's a very good reader too. He just doesn't do it for pleasure. But my son, he turned 16 a few months ago, same thing. I'm like, if you just read every day, like maybe you can make a goal. Like, so what are your goals now? Maybe it can be to read 5 pages every day.
That's it. Set the goal for him.
Like so passionate about, yeah. So let me drop a big hint of what I think you should
And
be
I'm
doing.
like that with music, where I'm like, have pushed so much that sometimes my kids are like,
okay, like even if you're not making them do it, if they feel pressured into doing it, it's really a turnoff.
I'll say that like my oldest son, my husband especially, has done a lot with reading with my kids, and like he read all of the Lord of the Rings to my son when he was 6. When they finished, my son had tears streaming down his cheeks and he was like, I need some time by myself. It was like so
Yeah.
Like he was empathizing so much with those characters and it resonated with him so much. Wow, he was moved by that.
Yeah, so I mean, we definitely have had books be a big part of, especially our older kids, but it just has not stuck as much with our younger kids, and it's been hard to accept that and pivot and find new ways. So thank you for those ideas. I appreciate.
Yeah, well, I didn't finish the story because my son, who's 16 and has been resisting this, suddenly he's like, can we go to the library sometime, Mom? And I guess this was before he got his license. He got his license like a month after he turned 16. But yeah, sure. Why? And I had dropped it for a while. And he's like, I want to check out some books on food and nutrition. He's really interested in that. And do you have any recommendations? And I was like, oh my gosh, I've read all the food and nutrition books. I love those books. And so he settled on Michael Pollan or Pollan, I don't know how it's pronounced, and some of his history. It's like, it combines like history, science, business. It's all about like the food industry throughout history, but also nutrition and how humans have changed, Americans especially have changed how they eat
Okay,
over
fine.
time.
I'll get the book.
Yeah. So
You just sold me. Sorry, keep going.
that's funny. And he said that I learned that people who read before they go to sleep at night tend to be all these things, sleep better and whatever. And so he has a friend who does it too. So when this friend came over for dinner and at the with some other guests, and I was like, Anxious Generation, it's so good. And I opened it up and I read part of it that I thought they would be really fascinated by, because it's really about their generation, but it was about how we as adults, parents, teachers, authorities, are causing a lot of these problems. In one way is by helicoptering and overprotective in the real world and not allowing for them to struggle and fail and have these risk-taking experiences. So I thought they might enjoy that. And so I read part of it and they're like, wow, oh my gosh. And that was so interesting, But then my son's friend, who's 17, well, my son told me, so my friend, he started reading the book. He's 30 pages into it. And the next time I saw him, he was like, Angel, are you going to have a book club on this? Because I want to join it. And so then my son started reading that book. And so now having this friend, like they're reading together. So I guess just to say that, we've read aloud to our kids a lot. We are reading and learning, and we're also teaching them these principles. We're sharing inspirational stories. Just yesterday, I shared the story of Malcolm X, who was essentially functionally illiterate when he went to prison at age 21. And he had this life-changing experience, and he decided he was going to learn how to read and write in prison. And he said, he ended up being one of the most, arguably, one of the most intelligent, articulate, and influential people of the 20th century. So he said, I read a lot of this to them. I won't read the whole thing, but I'm thinking this could be like another mini episode, actually. This conversation here, I'm not kidding. I'm going to make this a mini episode, like just based on your question and where it led. Okay, so he copied the dictionary by hand, and he said it was so sad when I started. It took so long. It was so painstaking and laborious copying the letters. He said I couldn't even write in a straight line. And then after he copied the entire dictionary and started practicing reading, this is in his autobiography, by the way, I could for the first time pick up a book and read and now begin to understand what the book was saying. He said that it was like Chinese to him before. He couldn't understand. He could sound out some words, but most of it was like a foreign language. Anyone who has read a great deal can imagine the new world that opened. Let me tell you something. From then until I left that prison, in every free moment I had, if I was not reading in the library, I was reading on my bunk. You couldn't have gotten me out of books with a wedge. Months passed without me even thinking about being imprisoned. In fact, up to then, I never had been so truly free in my life. And I thought, he's including the time before he went to prison even. But it was reading great books that liberated him.
Yeah.
He was free. He would read until 3 or 4 in the morning. Okay, so there was a writer who called him after he had become famous. A writer in England called him to interview him. And one of the questions he asked was, what's your alma mater? I told him books. And so that's the most recent inspirational story that I told my kids about the power of reading. But, it just happens. I think, they have their agency. And I think with that foundation, that soil, like you're talking about, I think most of the time it will happen that they will suddenly just start reading and enjoying it for pleasure. It reminds me of Enos when he was off hunting beasts in the forest. So he was most likely a young adult at that point. If he was off hunting beasts in the forest and he said, and the words of my father sunk deep into my heart.
Yeah.
And it's like clearly up until that point, he had dismissed the words of his father, whatever that means. He ended up repenting. So he probably wasn't listening and he wasn't practicing it, and didn't have, it wasn't like, okay, I'm going through the motions and I'm obeying. And then all of a sudden it sunk deep into my heart. It's like all of a sudden he was like on his knees repenting all day and all night, you know, because he hadn't been listening to his father. And what a powerful moment. And can we be comfortable with that? We've talked about this in previous podcasts. Can we sit with that discomfort, knowing that our kids are not, they're not making choices that are in alignment with what we know is best for them.
Right.
So that they can have that powerful transformative moment where they realize in the moment that they're ready to realize it and understand it, that I get it now. And I'm going to change my life to align with that. And I think that's where what may seem like a late learner in any realm, whether it's spiritually or academically, a late learner, if they can come to it on their own, then it's profound. It doesn't matter that it was late, right? Because like Malcolm X, he was 21 when he started learning how to read, and he was a criminal up until then. But he ended up, whether you agree with his philosophy and approach or not, he ended up becoming very educated and a force in the world.
Well, I'm going to go finish reading or listening to Mrs. Dalloway, because that is the book that my son invited me to read.
Sorry to keep you so long.
Mary,
but that's going to be a great podcast. It was totally impromptu too.
As you read that book with your kid, like you finish reading that, you're going to have this experience with this older kid, and the other kids are going to be watching, and they're going to be hearing it, and they're going to hear these discussions and this excitement of having this shared experience. And who knows what may develop because of them just watching you have this experience with another kid. Your dream may come true. I don't know. If this podcast was helpful for you, please leave us a review and share with a friend.
Until next time, start with stories and everything else will follow.
You can learn more about our other education projects at angelselda.com and wonderwelllearning.com.